Hello, and welcome back to plantcare.club, where we care about your plants. My name is Fred, and on this show, we say we like to do three things. Number one, we talk about your plants, indoor, outdoor, whatever you've got. Today, we're talking about garden plants. So, as we get closer to the spring, we're going to talk more about what you need to consider before you head to the garden center to buy plants for your garden, deck, patio, whatever you're looking to get there. Number two, we do product reviews. So we'll talk about specific plants, specific types of soil or pots. Maybe even it's like a product like an EC tester or like a pH meter that you're saying, hey, I really want to try this out. Or grow lights too. If you're saying, hey, I've looked at this on Amazon or my friend has this, what do you think? Send us a message and we can take a look at it. And that leads me into number three, we answer your questions. So if you have any questions while you're listening to the show, head to plantcare.club, and on that website we have a bunch of information on we have blog posts that we have. So if you want to search for something, there's a lot of text in there that you can search for. We've got other shows in the past. We have YouTube and Spotify, Apple Podcasts, so you can take a look at any of those different formats and see maybe if you can answer your question. If not, just send us a message. There's a question format at the bottom that you can fill out, and we'll either get back to you by answering your question on the podcast or probably through email. So, as I said, my name's Fred, and at our greenhouse, we grow spring annuals. We do garden mums and poinsettias. We also have some tropicals in Homestead, Florida, where we grow Kimberleys, Majesties, and Mandevilla, among other items down there too, house plants, this and that. So we take these plants, we ship them across Canada and the United States. The goal of the show is to take all that stuff that I just said and explain to you how you can use what professionals grow, use the tools and tricks that professional growers have and apply them to your own plants. So that's the goal here, is we want to be able to translate this and really get from the murky, kind of intense and hard to decipher answers that sometimes growers can give them to you in a really easy to digest, easy way to understand and apply to your own plants. Okay, so I am going to jump straight into this because, as I mentioned, this is our garden series. Now, on this, I want to do three different topics that don't really relate at all, but they're just three different individual categories of plants, or categories that we can bundle plants into that weren't enough to make one full show out of. So the first one that I have are drought tolerant plants. Now, I'm making myself a little bit smaller. If you're listening, just make myself a little smaller. Drought tolerant plants. What's this mean? These are plants that it's not like they don't want water. They still want water. They still want fertilizer. But the key is, if you are leaving for a week and then you're going to come back, they're not going to be completely dead. What does not fit into this? Petunia, some calibrachoas, usually geraniums. There could be some even like New Guinea or begonias. There are a ton of other plants that really don't fit into this. So if you have a petunia hanging basket that's on your porch and it looks beautiful and you're saying, awesome, I'm going to the cottage for a week, or I'm going to the trailer, or I'm going wherever you're going, and you ask someone else to water the plant for you, and lo and behold, they do not, you will come home and that plant will be smoked. Most likely. If there's a lot of sun, if it's still pretty warm, if it doesn't get a lot of rain, it'll probably be pretty smoked. So we're trying to talk about plants that are easy to take care of. And the key is, you can forget about them. You can water them once in a while. Or if you do have, as I mentioned, if you do have like a cottage or a trailer or somewhere else that you don't go to as often, that you're trying to get some plants for, these are great options. These are awesome options that you can use to decorate around there. Anyway, so I'm going to jump right in. First off, Mandevilla. I made myself smaller, made myself bigger, but Mandevilla is right above my head here. They're awesome for vining up a trellis or across a railing. They can go, if you get a 10-inch Mandevilla or even like a 6-inch one and you want it to keep going, the easiest way is Once some of the arms come out, just train some of the arms around, wrap it around a couple of times of whatever you're wanting it to climb up, and it'll just keep on going. The other arms will eventually find the same thing and just keep climbing straight up it. They are such a versatile, awesome plant. And if you forget about them, they're so easy to take care of. They they will drop some of their blooms that are already done. So there's a little bit of cleanup that you have to do afterwards, but overall, as far as drought tolerant, they fit perfectly into this. On the far end, away from me over there, that is lantana. So lantana is a great option because it provides that flower. It's a different type of shape from the mandevilla. So the mandevilla will climb upright. This lantana is a bit more of a bush. They attract a lot of butterflies or insects too. That they can be kind of dumped into that sort of pollinator plant bucket, but they can't. They're quite drought resistant. So sometimes we'll even put mandevilla and lantana in the same combination in the same pot because we're trying to say, okay, we want to give something to the homeowner that has only drought resistant plants. So actually, what you see here, we've got lantana, mandevilla, and in the middle, that's Dorianthus or a Mizu plant. And sometimes we'll take all three of those, we'll mix them together in the same pot, and then let them grow. And in the spring, we sell it as a drought-resistant 12-inch or 14-inch or whatever we're trying to market that as, because these three plants work so well together. The top two, the mandevilla is going to give you the height, the lantana is going to give you a bit more of the body, and then the Dorianthus is actually going to trail over the side. So if you're listening, I'll try to explain the Dorianthus. It is a trailer, and it's a pretty green. It looks a little bit more like a succulent, really, as it's growing. But eventually, if you give it enough time, it gets enough heat and sunlight, fertilizer, grows enough, gets comfortable, it'll start to bloom these little pink flowers all the way through the summer. It's a really cool looking plant. And once you get it, once we've got our hands on it, we started to put it in more and more and more and more mixed containers because it's so versatile. It will fit with the planters that we have, which have other plants that want a lot more water, like a geranium. We could throw it in there, but we can put it into these baskets that have drought-resistant plants, and it meshes in really, really well. So, point of this is, if you are looking for some drought-resistant plants, and you're going to your local garden center this spring, you're saying, okay, that's on the top of my list. I gotta make a planter for it. I need to look for something that's standalone. I just want to get a pot. I want to get a hanging basket. Check any of these. Oh, and also, mandevilla, it also mixes in with diplademia. When I say mandevilla, I kind of mean diplademia too. The two of them are brother, sister, or cousin, or however you want to say it. So the two of them really mesh. So yeah, as far as mandevilla goes, dips work as well. Okay, next up. I've got easy cleanup. So easy cleanup on this. 3 different items. Once again, making myself a little smaller if you're listening. So what you notice across these 3 is there are no flowers. And I'm not including any plants that flower because, as I mentioned with the mandevilla a minute ago, eventually those flowers, those blooms will die off, they'll fall, and then that requires cleanup. So with this, I wanted to be strictly easy plants to take care of. You probably don't have to touch it all summer long. Give it water. You don't have to deadhead. You don't have to do any of those kind of things. Directly above me is a Boston fern. So if you keep it watered all summer long, you give it lots of light, it won't drop those bottom leaves. It won't go a little bit more stringy. I think we've all seen a Boston fern that someone has overwintered, and then the next year you have like the pot, a little bit of stick-like stubbies, and then all the growth happens after that. But there's like this area of just sticks, and it almost looks like sticks and twigs. That's last year's growth. And then after that, you get this year's growth that's on top of it. So that can be a concern. If you let it dry out, it'll start to drop those bottom leaves and become a lot more sparse. At that point, if they have dried out and you take the pot and you shake it, that's when you're going to get a ton of leaves just dropping like confetti afterwards. So you've got to keep it watered. You've got to keep giving it the sunlight and the fertilizer. But it's an easy plant to take care of. You can really just hang it up and let it go. It's going to do well. In the middle, I got coleus. So this is a great option if you want to throw it into your garden or into a mixed container. Coleus, they come in a ton of different colors, patterns, textures. As you can tell, there's like a pink with black around the sides. If you go into your garden center or a local retailer, they're going to have a bunch of different options of coleus, assuming that they have it. So you can really dive into getting these different type of funky textures and applying that to your garden, your patios. And once again, if you keep it watered and you pay a bit of attention to it, there's really no cleanup, there's no mess. I guess I kind of cheated on this because eventually if coleus is happy enough by the end of the summer, they will flower. So so I guess I already broke my own rule about no flower, but I'm gonna let it slide because I can. So the coleus still fits into this bucket. Last one. Last one, I have Majesty Palm all the way over on my far right. And of course, these are a staple. I'm sure that you've seen them before. A little trick, if you want to throw them into your garden, they can provide shade for other plants that you have around there. So if you want a little bit of height in the middle of a garden that's flatter, let's say you want to put wax begonias below them and you don't have any trees in the area, throwing in a few majesties into your garden is going to give the shade to those wax begonias underneath that they really need. The Majesty, just like everything else, you keep it watered, you give it some attention, you stay on top of it, and it's going to keep all of those leaves. It's not going to lose any fronds. It's going to stay looking great all the way through your spring, summer, and into the fall. And then it depends. Do you want to bring it inside? Do you want to just scrap it and leave it and grab a new one next year? That's really up to you. Okay, last one that I have, and you will see that they don't really overlap. I have best vining plants. So, three examples of plants that are really great for vining. If you have a trellis the that you want the plant to grow all the way up and completely cover, and then you can like take pictures in front of it. That's a great option. We actually from our wedding we have a whole bunch of photos from above me is a Thumbergia plants that have completely covered over a large trellised area. And then my wife and I are sitting in front of that. So there are a lot of different options for vining plants. You can get into perennials too that are really good at vining, but I only have time to really only to discuss a few. So I've got three here. Above me is a Thumbergia. So Thumbergia is also known as the black-eyed Susan. Okay, black-eyed Susan, Thumbergia. There's an orange version, a white version. I can't think of any. Oh, I've seen a purple version as a perennial. Now, as a warning, if you are looking for some of these vining plants and you say, "Oh, there's some perennials they're a little bit, easier to get or they're cheaper or there's something like that," you've got to be aware that they're going to come back every year and they are very difficult to get rid of. So, for example, when we bought our house, there was Thumbergia there was a perennial in the garden, and it was almost impossible to get rid of. We took all the soil out of the garden, replaced all of the soil, put all new soil back in, and I still see some spots, even in the driveway, popping up here and there. In the lawn, you can see it popping up here and there. So it's so difficult to get rid of. That is a warning from my own experience. Be careful of some of these perennial. They are also like Morning Glory is a similar name, similar vein. So just be careful of those. Anyway, I'm a little bit off topic. Thumbergia is a great option for vining. At the beginning, for a grower, it starts off a little bit slow. It's a harder plant to root. Not every garden center is going to have this or retailer because it is a little bit more of a specific, like a one-off type plant. They're not as common, but if you can find them and you can give them enough fertilizer and water all the way through the summer, they'll just continue to explode and they grow very, very quickly. They'll take over. Next up, I got jasmine. Jasmine in the middle here. It is a really great looking flowering plant. They can be a bit harder to find Usually they are, in my experience, they're grown in those southern states where they have the nice weather, and then they're shipped up north. But they're not as common as, say, a mandevilla would be. Maybe a little bit less common than even, you know what, it's going to rival a Thunbergia. It's going to be pretty close to that. So as far as vining plants go, jasmine's a great option, and it'll be a really good look through the summer and through the winter, through the early fall. But the hard part is going to be finding it. Farthest over there to my right is mandevilla. Mandevilla is a staple for a vining plant. Usually you can see them in a trellis. They're going to do great if you put that right beside, a larger pole or a larger trellis, a fence, whatever you're looking to get the plant to climb all over, a railing. Now, a quick word of warning: the diplodemia in this case isn't going to work as well. Their genetics for a diplodemia are made to mound. They're made to sit as more of a ball. Versus the mandevilla, you're going to find them in a large trellis that's going to climb all the way up to the top and fill the whole spot. So look for a mandevilla variety. Look for the ones that are, the bigger the trellis, the more aggressive you really want that variety. Usually, if you're looking for the best varieties, generally whites are pretty aggressive. Pinks are pretty aggressive. Reds are less aggressive. Yellow is relatively new to the market, so that's not as well known. Peach is reasonably, I'd say that's a middle of the road. So if you're looking to fill a really big trellis or something like that, shoot for a white or a pink. Maybe the peach, if you really want that color, you can go for it, but don't expect the most out of a red. Most of the red varieties, they either don't have as much flower and they're really aggressive, and really that variety not many growers are using anymore, or they have a ton of flower, they look great, but they're a slower viner. They take more time. Okay, so as I mentioned, I've got three things. That's all that I have now. So I've gone through all three. Drought resistant, middle one was drought resistant. Oh, easy cleanup. I almost forgot. Drought resistant, easy cleanup, and best vining. If you have any questions, if this brought up any ideas, or you said, hey, what about this plant that I've been looking at, this plant that I had last year, what do you think about this? Send us a message at plantcare.club, and we can do some research and get back to you on it. Until next time, guys, thank you for listening. Talk to you again soon.